Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. For the next, hour, sit back, relax, and have, I would say, the time of your life. But if it really was the time of your life, then you would have all kinds of problems in your life. So now I have to shut off this feed of, okay, don't want echo in my headset. All right. So Rick is was trying to be on the air, but he's having some problems with freeze ups, and he'll be in the chat room. We'll be talking about a number of things today. Predominantly about the Cleveland Indians and the state of baseball right now, which is really kind of an odd situation. That would be the way that I would put it right now. But first, this great story, which I think says it all for me, and it is the meaning of life. Headline reads thusly: a Red Lobster employee found a rare blue lobster. Instead of cooking it, the restaurant sent it to an Ohio zoo. All right? This is kind of a heartwarming story, isn't it? The Red Lobster decided, the employee said, he recognized how rare blue lobsters are, and he contacted the Akron Zoo, who took on the lobster. About one of every 2 million lobsters is actually blue. The blue shell is due to a genetic anomaly. And once they took the lobster out in a cooler that, that had like water in it, and they brought it to the Akron Zoo, and they saved its life. The Akron Zoo has named the blue lobster Claude after the restaurant's mascot, and contacted the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which then reached out to the zoo. Well, the animal care staff was put into motion, and the next thing you know, in the Akron Zoo, he has a special tank, and that is in the Komodo Kingdom building in the Akron Zoo. It all sounds like a very nice story, but I want to ruin it, because the fact of the matter is that one out of every 2 million lobsters is blue, but it didn't stop the absolute devastation of the rest of lobster kingdom. I mean, Red Lobster is literally the greatest killer of lobsters. Let's be honest about it. For them to save one blue blue lives matter. I mean, what about the rest of the orange goddamn lobsters? I mean, if you were a lobster and they were getting ready to put you in a boiling pot, and they said, we saved the blue one, and all the orange ones said, this sucks. This fucking sucks.
I could urinate all over this story by pointing out the absurdity of Roe v. Wade in the comparison there. But
I'm just saying the thing that's ridiculous about this whole thing. It's like, well, we felt good about killing the rest of the lobsters, but we saved the blue one. Well, the article does continue that there are lobsters that are far more rare than the blue lobster. Now, this is something
just over your thoughts.
No, I mean,
thank you, Rick.
what did he do? I'm sorry.
Long John Silver, your thoughts.
Well, no, but this story it has an interesting conclusion. In May 2019, a Massachusetts restaurant found a blue lobster in its shipment, sent it to a local aquarium. A few months later, a fisherman in Maine caught a rare cotton candy-colored lobster, not once, but twice. And just a month later, another fisherman in the same area caught a two-toned red and black lobster, which is a 1 in 50 million find. But for the rest of the lobsters, you're going into the fucking boiling pot. So just something to remember when we select one lucky lobster on the basis of a genetic mutation. How far away can we be from killing all gingers? I just wonder. All right. Baseball.
Well, they've been trying for 47 years, but I'm still here.
And not Coronavirus talk in baseball. Well, what's happening in baseball, the Indians played 3 games. We'll talk about, my thoughts on the 3 games in just a moment. But there are things that trump, I hate using that word, but it is really a word besides an offensive term used in politics. Um, the story that trumps everything is now games are being canceled in the major leagues already. And
Some
it's
due to
leading,
weather, though.
it's not due to weather, it's due to the coronavirus.
Well,
If you
didn't they
have,
have rain? Didn't they have some rainouts?
but I mean, this ain't no fucking rain out. An outbreak of COVID spread throughout the Miami Marlins clubhouse. Now, 7 cases amongst players, 2 amongst coaching staff, but now it turns out that there were at least 13 positives.
They went to the same Georgia strip club as that fucking baseball.
Yeah, I mean, 13 now. I mean, the entire Miami Marlins clubhouse is like poisoned by this. And then I love this question. Does the Marlins outbreak of positive cases, and in this case, it would be, at least 11 players, put their season in jeopardy?
And you
The
thought
answer,
the genital warts were bad.
yeah, well, get this. They say, of course it does, but that's why there's a taxi squad of up to 30 players. If the league is going to continue play, then it's next man up, as hard as that might be to believe. There really is no other choice. If the Marlins season is in jeopardy, then the entire league's is as well. And then it goes on to say, and anyway, the taxi squad is very resemblant of the starting squad for the Miami Marlins.
Which means AA and AAA players.
That's what it means. It means you're just going to get a bunch of no-name guys, and it's going to turn out like the XFL. And it's something that we talked about on the show weeks ago. That, DirecTV just went ahead and billed me for the amount for the Major League Baseball. It's not Major League Baseball. I'm not saying the Marlins ever really have been, except for the one year they beat us in the goddamn World Series. Besides that, no. They're not that good a baseball team at all. But people have the right, if they're going to pay for a product, to get the product that they're paying for. And if this is just a small little picture of what it's going to be in a greater sense amongst Major League Baseball, you can see how quickly this thing spreads. And it's not necessarily the Miami Marlins' fault. They just got done playing the Philadelphia Phillies. So now the Phillies game against the Yankees is being canceled, or it's the Orioles. I think it's against the Orioles, is being canceled as well, because they're trying to trace this thing backwards. And it's like, well, was it the Marlins guys who had it first, or did they get it from the Phillies guys? Well, now anybody who played the Phillies is going to be tested. And so they're testing backwards. And this creates a huge problem. A huge problem, because you're never going to catch up with it, because the coronavirus spreads so goddamn quickly. Once it's in its environment and doing its thing, it will go from person to person to person if they're in close contact. I'm watching the baseball games, and to be very honest with you, I mean, empty stadiums aside, you can see that the players are still kind of like they normally are. They're not nearly as, distanced. I mean, sitting there watching this, and, Francona has a mask on, and player standing right next to him doesn't have a fucking mask on. And it's like, I don't really understand. I thought they were policing social distancing, but in the goddamn dugout, they're not. And they're even light high-fiving on the field, and they said that wasn't even going to happen. So, all it takes is for a little bit of this shit to happen to each team, and it's going to spread like wildfire. And with 60 games in 60 days, basically, or whatever the fuck it is, they can't afford to be canceling games because there's nowhere on the end to add them on. Brian, I mean, is this a recipe for failure?
Well, you had to know that some of this was coming, though.
Sure.
That they could not maintain these people in a bubble indefinitely. It just couldn't happen. And so, we knew that the breakdowns were going to happen, regardless of whether there are fans in the stands or not.
Well, and thank you, Rick, for correcting me. That's the Marlins, Orioles, and Yankees, Phillies, Oda Da Day. Um, Well, yeah, of course, we kind of guessed it might be coming, depending on what your persuasion might be and how seriously you take the virus. There ain't no question that in close contact areas, this thing is bad news and it's very easily contracted. Um, so, uh, you know, could I have predicted this? Not after 3 games. I mean, you would figure the restrictions on the players would be tighter now, and that if anything, as the games went on, people like they did when we reopened the fucking country, they just decided, oh, we can do our own thing now, and we're going out inside dining, and we're going to the bar, and all the stupid things that ignorant people do. And sure enough, the thing just comes to life again. Then it's like, I'm not going to wear a mask. And then finally, states start and mayors and all start saying you have to wear masks. And now it's starting to level a little bit. It's like, I don't wear a mask. Fucking retards, man. They're just idiots. But already I see the players kind of having a lax attitude about this. I just can't even believe. If it's happening this early, they ain't going to make it through 60 games because all it's going to do, if you keep going from town to town, and if one team's players ends up having that, and it will spread it to the other team, because if they're socializing outside the game, which I suspect is what happened here with the Phillies and the Marlins, they're going to get it. And if this is still happening all over the league, which I have every reason to believe, because nobody wants to wear masks and nobody wants to have their little freedoms, infringed upon for a greater public health problem. And this could blow up and end baseball before it begins. And I hate to see that because, it was kind of fun watching the games, and if I could just get 20 games, I'd have enough baseball, to be very honest with you. It's not that great. It really isn't. And this is part of the discussion, Rick, it's Major League Baseball, the ownership of baseball is just, they are.
Hi, Chad.
Hey, Chad, how you doing?
He had broken ribs, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. A broken rack of lamb, or a broken rib roast.
And tried to break his ankle, too. All in the same day.
I saw his picture of his ankle being twisted. Yeah, he was all black and blue. Major League Baseball has no bubble. I mean, everyone says the NBA is kind of the creme de la creme in their approach. And of course, we're going to find that out too, aren't we? But Major League Baseball, the ownership and all, is very dictatorial. That would be a nice way of putting it. And I have a feeling that they just wanted to go in and make their money, and they don't care how they do it. But I would say that of all of the sports, because of the timing of this, because there are so many positive cases, I mean, even if we're seeing a slight leveling off in this, that level has come up and is all the way plateauing way up here. And as long as there are all these positive cases walking around, starting baseball now is disadvantageous compared to football, which isn't going to begin until September, and no preseason, and basketball, which is trying to start, but really imposing serious sanctions. That's Major League Baseball is going to have to, I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be a problem. I can't imagine. What I'm more concerned about is the notion that players may well be breaking containment, if you will, and just going out after the game with the other team's players. And that would make sense to me, how so many people would get it so quickly, as if they were all gathered in a group together. We've seen it whether it was in political rallies at Tulsa, whether at churches, in very large assemblies of churches. This thing spreads like wildfire. And if you're not wearing masks and you're close together, you're going out drinking in bars. We're seeing 25 to 34-year-olds getting this like crazy. So why not Major League Baseball players? And I have a feeling the story is going to come out that players are socializing with one another after hours, defeating the entire purpose of having a season. So very strange, a very strange situation. And it is good to see Chad up on his feet. I don't know how he got hurt. Were you water skiing? Is that what the story was? You said something about the water.
Well, what he told me was he fell in the boat and broke his ribs. And then when they were trying to dock the boat, it was one of those floaty deals, and he lost his balance, and the upper part went in the water, and his ankle got kind of wedged in the dock.
Great trip.
So, yeah. So that's why I teased him about life preserver and bubble wrap, please.
And then there's always this, you know. Do you ever say anything else? I don't understand. I mean,
about what?
No, this guy, I'm putting up his little caption up here. You know, he already said this on the last show. And it's like, I think that, you know, that might be one of these, it might be the Alzheimer's ward again. Just tuning into the program. I have no idea. And Rick is commenting, no bubble as yet for football. 16 tailgate parties in the parking lots. How's that going to be managed? You know,
well, there's not going to be any fans, so it's not going to matter for the first couple of games.
Yeah. So. You know, and what the NFL is doing is they're trying now to get a little tougher, if you will, and making at least a public stance. Nobody's gone to the lengths that the NBA has, but you see, the NFL still thinks, well, we got some time here. You know, there's August, this thing can start retreating, and I think that's a foolish strategy. You know, but what they're saying is that players who attend high risk events and contract coronavirus will face team discipline and a docking of pay. This was a memo that was sent by the NFLPA to agents, a copy of which was obtained by ESPN. The memo says the final language of the agreement between the league and the players will appear in a side letter called a summary of major aspects of the COVID amendments. You know, this has more to do with opt-outs, you know, player contracts, and
speaking of opting out, did you see the I don't know if you've mentioned this, but the Kansas City Chief lineman that said, just say no to the 2020 season?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you may well.
Thank you for my ring. Now I'm going home.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder. At first, I was looking to see if it was our former guy. You know, the guy who couldn't block for us. What was his name? I forget. Cam Irving. I was going to say, was it Cam Irving? You know?
No, I think it was the other one.
No, it was the other one. Yeah, but yeah,
the good one.
Yeah, the one who blocks. Yeah, gets in people's way. Yeah. The players were told weeks ago on a conference call with the NFLPA leadership that they could face discipline, including fines for conduct detrimental to the team, if they are found to have contracted COVID through reckless activity away from the facility. Now, and this is what we're talking about with Major League Baseball. No such documents really exist for that. So that's what my concern about Major League Baseball is. Just if there's no provision for that, what's stopping them from doing it? You're just going to end up with an aborted season. And, you know, and again, you know, there are some things that aren't like ha-ha funny, but are kind of peculiar. The Minnesota Vikings trainer and infection control officer tested positive for COVID. I mean, can the Vikings do anything right? You know, Kevin Stefanski's like, glad I'm the hell out of there. But I mean, realistically, I mean, this is it's lifestyle choice, but sometimes it's just bad luck if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Eric Sugarman is his name. The members of his family have tested positive as well. That's the other thing that you find in these cases. It's not a one and done. When you live under the roof with people, they're going to get it. If you're positive, they're going to get it. You cannot quarantine a home. It's why this thing is so just hugely destructive in the Hispanic community, because multi-generations living under the same roof in close proximity. And before they know they have it, they go out and they're just spreading it, and they're continuing to work, and it's just a really difficult thing. The funny thing is, Sugarman is also the Vikings infection control officer. He said he is doing fine, experiencing mild symptoms, and he's immediately quarantined. He had no recent contact with players, and no additional cases within the Vikes front office have been identified at this time. And he will continue to serve as the Vikings infection control officer virtually.
Oh, and in a similar vein, the Cleveland Browns have set up a separate little mobile trailer where they're doing all of the pre-COVID testing.
Oh, really?
For the team, for the staff, for the front office.
Wow.
Because tomorrow is report day, so they're trying to get a jump on it.
Yeah, it's Jason McCourty of the Patriots is saying, I'm getting a little worried about having a season. And I think you're going to see more and more as the month of August we fall into, the players knowing that at this point in time they would normally be getting ready to play preseason games that have all been canceled, but are probably trying to envision in their minds what it would have been like to play preseason games, and it would have been just an absolute disaster. And, is there going to actually be time by the time September comes around? McCourty is expressing concern. The first group of Patriots players is scheduled to report to the team's facility on Monday for testing for COVID. And on the eve of his arrival, McCourty was saying, I'm not going to lie, for me as a fellow player, I go on social media and it makes me very nervous to think there will be a season. Because I've seen guys posting a video in a nightclub and it's just like, we're trying to play football. That's not going to be okay. You see guys working out in one city on a Monday, working out in another city on a Tuesday, and in another city the next week. And it's like, dang, if they're working out here, and here, that means you have to be traveling. And you come across however many people. Or you see a guy posting pictures and there's hundreds of people, whether it's anywhere. So for me, it's nerve-wracking. Well, this is the same thing that society at large is concerned about when people didn't take all this shit seriously and insisted on going to their fucking bars. They finally started closing the bars down, but they didn't close the people down. People, in order for this thing to eventually die down, personal behavior has to be changed. Not an infringement on anyone's freedom. It's just common sense. McCourty is 32 years old. It's not his nature, he says, to be negative, but who can blame him when you're seeing people that you're going to be on the field with 4 weeks from now, partying hardy with a bunch of people, or, like he said, going from city to city where when they're not working out, they're probably hanging out with friends and, other players, and same thing that's happened, it looks like, in Major League Baseball. So until you change human behavior, it's not going to work. The whole thing isn't going to work. So, So.
Oh, boy.
What are we talking about in the chat, for God's sake?
You don't want to know.
Rox's doll's eyes? Yeah. Is that what we're talking about? My God.
Yeah. So Bronk brought up not to be confused with Betty Davis eyes. And I said...
Betty Davis thighs. While we're talking about old dead Hollywood stars. Olivia de Havilland just died at 104. I saw an interview with Olivia de Havilland when she was 102 on YouTube. 102 years old. She was not only lucid, she was so well spoken and so organized, and she looked great. She looked like Barbara Bush, but she was 102 during the interview. It's amazing. That woman who starred with Vivian Leigh in Gone with the Wind was talking about Vivian Leigh and having all kinds of memories about making the movie with her. Really, some kind of a story to live 104 years and to have all your marbles. I think that's just awesome. Just awesome. Um, and Bronk is just telling it like it is. Sting is a pretentious douchebag. All right. You know, and my average, who would my average panelist be, Bronk? I don't know who the average, are you attacking Rox? Saying Olivia is more lucid than Rox? Are you there, Rox?
I am here.
Oh, it took you a little while to unmute your
way to
mic.
reply to that.
Yeah, you know. Yeah,
I'm
and
not mute.
yeah, I know you were muted. Regis Philbin passed away, and that was his final answer, folks. And there is no lifeline for him. And Peter Green, who
He does not get to phone a friend.
that's exactly right. This is just the final decision. Final answer? Yes. I never cared for Regis Philbin, you know. So, you know, he was never my cup of tea. But hey, 88. But Peter Green is more of a loss to me. Rick May would know Peter Green. Most people wouldn't realize that Peter Green was the founder of Fleetwood Mac. Not Mick Fleetwood, not John McVie. They were in the band, but the naming of the band and all was Peter Green was the leader of that band. And he was a miraculous guitarist who took over when when Eric Clapton left John Mayall's Blues Breakers in England. Peter Green was his replacement. And many people said that Peter Green was the greater of the guitar gods at the time. One thing that we can say is he wrote a number of really remarkable songs, including the future Santana hit Black Magic Woman, which everybody thought Santana all had to do with. Peter Green wrote it. Peter Green also Albatross, which was a big English-British single back in the late 60s. I'm just trying to think. The Man of the World, which was one of the last things he did with Fleetwood Mac. Man of the World is this magnificent song. Great guitarist, great singer, and a guy who fought schizophrenia for the longest time of his life. Wow, Bronk actually saw him. That's pretty awesome. With the Splinter group, yeah, you know, it was amazing that he could even play after what he went through in the mid 70s with schizophrenia, and you know how that goes, medication, and there's a deadening effect. And Peter Green, by the end, really couldn't play much lead guitar. He was really playing more rhythm guitar, yeah. And he lost a lot of his vocal chops, which you would imagine would be the case. And Oh Well, Part 1 and 2, that's right, Bronk. And this is all, to me, real Fleetwood Mac, which is, and I love Fleetwood Mac, don't get me wrong, when Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks joined the band, but there's been so many incarnations and populaces of, if that's the way of putting it, bandmates in Fleetwood Mac, including Bob Welch, who went on to have a solo career with Sentimental Lady, and which
Christine McVie.
Yeah, Christine McVie, who was Christine Perfect, right? And then she became Christine McVie when she married John McVie. And like I was saying, Bob Welch, who had Ebony Eyes and Sentimental Lady, and he recorded Sentimental Lady as a single on the Kiln House album with Fleetwood Mac. I loved old Fleetwood Mac, and a lot of people did, but they weren't nearly as big as what they became with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. And of course, Mick Fleetwood and John McVie were there for the whole ride from the very beginning. You know, and there were so many others, but Peter Green was somebody who, Yeah, and I give him a little more time on this show because I think he gave away all of his money to charity, and that was not part of schizophrenia. That was his belief that he was not greater than the music. He was a person who insisted that the band be called Fleetwood Mac because I think he knew in his heart that he was not going to continue on with the band indefinitely. So as a result of that, and the first album was released as Peter Green and Fleetwood Mac, and he was furious with the record label and said, never do that again. So he went his own way, and his own way was really kind of strange. Very, very strange. Well, when he got sick, the music became very, very erratic. And there's Bronk. How you doing, Bronk?
There we go. Peter Green.
Oh wow! What is that?
That's a Peter Green and the Splinter group from. I'm trying to think what year it is.
Oh wow!
It's from 2001. So okay. He retired. He was mentally ill for like about 20 years, like you said. And part of the problem was he ran into somebody's girlfriend, like one of the other rock stars' girlfriend, who was German. They went to this house, and he ended up having an acid trip, and it fucking fucked his head up, and he went psychotic for like about 22 years. And then he came back and formed this group in the late 1990s, and he was still playing and whatnot. It was a pretty good concert. It was him, and they had what version of John Mayall and the Blues Breakers opening it. And John Mayall at that time, when I saw him, was like 70 years old. So yeah, a lot of these guys are dead now, but everybody's dead. But that's what's going on.
There's Tony the Calf, just in time to talk baseball. We want to talk about the Indians. The Indians played 2 games.
You mean the end of the season?
Yeah, the end of this. It's the end of the season, and we know it.
Well, you know.
Yeah, you know.
You know.
Yeah, it's. But let's talk about the 3 games that did get played so far by the Indians. We're playing tonight also at 10 minutes past 7 Eastern Standard Time against the Chicago White Sox. Aaron Savali will be pitching for the Tribe. And Bradley Zimmer is not in the lineup to face a right-handed pitcher. And it's interesting, the way he went back on that fly ball, the one that he did not catch, he would have caught that in a heartbeat before his injuries. And I'm just wondering if he's lost some of his stomach for that, which Grady Sizemore never did, and it ended his career prematurely. I'm wondering if Bradley Zimmer is a little bit frightened by the run of injuries that he's had. But
I would be if I were him. But didn't he get caught out stealing in one of the games too? Did he get thrown out stealing the base?
Yeah, and that's the other thing, and he usually doesn't get caught stealing either. So, just one thing to kind of ask the question. And thank you, Rick. That's right. Sid Barrett. That's another kettle of fish. My goodness. That's Pink Floyd for those people who were too young to know who Sid Barrett was. The Bronx will
Well, he did spawn like 7 albums, so there you go.
Bronx, 3 Indians games, 2 wins, and what should have been a 3rd win that they pissed away.
Oh, God, they should have won that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the bat in Perez's hands, and I don't know what the hell happened with the 3-1 count. He didn't take the bat off his shoulders, which I thought was very interesting.
Well, the big thing that Hammy was complaining about in that game was in the first inning where Soler had a check swing that was called a ball when it was clearly a strike when they showed the replay, and then the next pitch he fucking cranks a home run, and then the next guy afterwards cranks a home run. So Hammy spent the whole game complaining about, we should only, Clevenger should be throwing the shutout and stuff like that.
I mean, it's a shame for Clevenger because, you make 2 mistakes, it's a mistake league, and you hang 2 balls, they leave the park very quickly.
Well, I mean, our view, I'm sure you share this, is that it's pathetic that the Indians couldn't get fucking enough runs to win that game. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But it's going to be an ongoing issue. I think that is the perceived weakness of the team, and it's in fact the weakness of the team is they don't move runners. And the fact that Francona didn't try to bunt with the guy on second base to start their bottom half of the extra innings frame.
That's a clusterfuck.
That whole inning turned out to be a clusterfuck with multiple opportunities to get on top of it. And we're fishing at pitches out of the strike zone and going after the low slider consistently. And that has been a pattern in all three games. A lot of people just being very impatient. And, I wanted to give my impressions of just a few players. My biggest concern is Brad Hand, who I just cannot imagine is going to remain the closer for this season. And I know that you're going to say, well, it's early, but it's early, but a guy with leukemia was throwing 95, folks. I mean, Carrasco really looked good and had velocity. Brad Hand, on the other hand, literally on the other hand, was only amping up to 91 miles an hour and trying to throw a 75-mile-an-hour breaking pitch and slider to get the difference in speed. But you cannot strike people out and get them out with a 91-mile-an-hour fastball. They will foul it off. And against good hitting teams, which the Royals are not, I'm looking at other arms, and we have a problem because we've got Oliver Perez, who is 39 years old and is hitting 87 on the gun, and we got Nick Whitgren, who is not a power arm. Karinchak, who lost the game technically, is a power arm, but is not the most consistent guy in the world at this point with his control, and he can't leave the hand, closing in the hands of a guy like that. We lack power arms in our bullpen, and Brad Hand, to make a comparison, is losing velocity. Who was our relief pitcher? Vinny Pestano, who had a very similar kind of fall. They said 2 years ago when Brad Hand was an all-star and with the San Diego Padres, the average velocity on his fastball was a little bit over 94 miles an hour. And in fact, he hit 95 on the gun fairly regularly when he needed that extra oomph. Now he was averaging between 90 and 91. When you lose 4 miles an hour of velocity, that's a very bad sign. And it doesn't come back the following year. That usually means arm in demise. I would not be surprised if the season continues if Brad Hand doesn't end up with arm trouble. And already Corey Kluber, for those Indians fans who love Klub.
That's a great trade.
Klubot,
that was an awesome trade.
Everybody loses on that deal. I mean, they had to pull him after one inning because of a tight arm, and it didn't feel right. And we know, again, that Kluber regularly threw 95 miles an hour, and what happens is when their arms go, the velocity drops off, and it's... now then they have to get by on smarts. I don't want a 90-mile-an-hour Brad Hand trying to outsmart people. What we're going to end up with is Bob Wickman.
Bob Wickman, yeah.
That's what we're going to end up with. And it's good. The Twins and even the White Sox will murder us with the kind of offense they can put up. And we're throwing that shit out of the bullpen late. It's going to be very difficult.
What's up with the Royals and they throw a bullpen game the third game into the season? I mean, they were basically giving the Indians a chance to hit against Double-A pitching.
Well, they just the two of their pitchers who would be in the rotation are down with COVID and they're being quarantined. But the thing is, that guy they pitched, I don't even know who in the hell he was.
Brady Singer or whatever.
No. He was good. Brady Singer was really good. But the guy they pitched in the 9-2 loss,
Sunday game.
Oh my God, that was just horrific. My God, Domingo Santana tomahawked a fastball that was at his forehead off the wall. The guy had no movement on his pitches whatsoever. So that was my first concern. My second concern is I was glad to see Lindor finally get a double, but he's swinging at incredibly bad
Oh
pitches.
God, what's wrong with him?
He doesn't want to play for the Indians
Well,
anymore.
you know.
It's a short season. He can't get psyched
He's
up
giving
for
it the old college overtry.
Yeah, oh, and now Rick May is jumping in. Thanks for this follow-up. Kluber has a torn muscle in the back of his throwing shoulder, out for 4 weeks. We'll kiss it goodbye.
Yeah, he ain't coming back.
Yeah, the mechanics of this, and it's funny because Verlander also has a strain in his arm.
Oh, well, that's from hanging out with Kate Upton now. You have a strain in your arm, too.
They're saying a couple of weeks for Verlander, too. But when you get older like this, it's a mechanical issue. And for Kluber, and what happens is you throw your arm out because your mechanics go right down the shitter. And it's just like when I had the knee that was before it was replaced, all the tennis that I played made my body, it broke me. It broke my spine. It broke everything. Everything goes to hell when you don't have the proper mechanics. And to throw a ball 95 miles an hour, if you start using too much arm because you can't use your body or your legs, you're fucked.
Well, that's because the knee bone's connected to the leg bone's connected to the hip bone.
Exactly. It's nice to see Ramirez do well. I mean,
it's July.
Yeah, exactly. He's picked up where you would hope he would pick up, and he, 2 home runs in the last game. He's just missed one on opening day.
Yeah, this is what they did last year. They killed teams that threw up AAA pitching against them, and they absolutely murdered them. And then when it mattered, when they had to play teams over 500, they sucked. But the reason why I'm more optimistic this year than I was at any point last year is that there won't be a lot of teams over 500 that they'll be playing because, the way the schedule is. You get to play the Pirates 6 times. So it's not a balanced schedule. We're not playing the NL Central an even number of games each team. We're playing the Pirates 6 times and a couple teams 3 times. And, the schedule's quite odd. In fact, if you look at it, the Indians are away from home like 5 out of the 6 next weekends. And then they come back to Jacobs Field or whatever the fuck it's called in the middle of the week. So they do these weird 3-game road trips, and it doesn't even it's bizarre. So let's see whether it lasts.
And looking at other players, like I'm saying, Zimmer is a disappointment. Only I don't think he's healthy, or I don't think that he up here is maybe ready. I think this run of injuries for him may have.
He's like Vaughn Hayes. Remember him?
Yeah. Well, we've seen a lot of players who fit the profile, like Lonnie Chisenhall. That once things start going to hell, some of it is real, some of it is up here. The thing is, and Brian makes a good point that Miller was far overused, and that's true. And if you look at the number of innings that Corey Kluber racked up over his career with the Indians, you could make the same argument. He was just a marathon man, and you can say this thing that Miller had in common with Kluber is that their wipeout pitch was a slider. It's one of the hardest balls to throw in baseball on the arm, and was really looked upon along with the split finger fastball as being the greatest cause in the dramatic upswing of Tommy John surgeries in the game. And when you have a guy whose outpitch is really that wrenching on the arm, and really Miller was just a death against left-handed hitters. I mean, people would be bailing. He'd have great left-handed hitters bailing out of there, having like a 6'7" guy throwing that thing at him, and then it would break at the last minute across the plate. Guys didn't even want to be in the box against him. But once it was gone, the sharpness of the break was gone, the arm was gone, and it's over with. other positional players for the Indians. We're going to see this, tonight. We're going to see Daniel Johnson in the outfield. We're going to see Domingo Santana playing we're in the outfield. And I like Cesar Hernandez. I would have been happier had Cesar Hernandez bunted in the situation where he needed to bunt. He tried on the first pitch and fouled it off, but he swung through a high pitch, the second ball, and it's just a lack of discipline. And I don't know what, telling him to hit away. And this is a guy who really has soft hands and should have bunted the ball. But he is a solid second baseman. I think he's going to hit you a good 275, 280. And he's good. He's going to hit for a similar average that Omar Vizquel would have hit for, but with a little more pop in his bat. He's a 10 to 15 home run kind of guy. And I think that's a good acquisition for the Indians. I was thrilled with the starting pitching, quite honestly. Clevenger, like we said, made 2 mistakes. Bieber, my goodness, was just dominant 14
Well, that's why
Ks.
they keep playing like that. Then they're going to win 2 out of 3 games against these like dickhead teams, and then they might catch a break in the playoffs. They might get an easy run. But last year was quite clear that they did not have the talent to play with Houston or New York or Los Angeles or the Twins even, for that matter. So who knows?
And Shaw, which Amsterdam is bringing up here, is another guy with a wipeout slider. I mean, he was a slider pitcher. This is very hard and makes for short careers. Tony, you saw your Twins play.
Oh boy, did I ever.
Yeah, what's the story?
I put up about 30 runs. Nelson Cruz hit the ball. Might as well have hit the ball every time. It was insane.
Well, Nelson Cruz is a guy, if he makes contact, it's going to seriously go somewhere. He's kind of like, in that regard, Franmil Reyes, who got a hold of one and just pulled it foul. But the thing is that they elevate the ball and it just carries. We saw Soleil, for the Royals, get one that didn't even look like it was going to go out. It looked like he caught it at the end of the bat and it just carried over the wall. The one that Salvador Perez hit, my God, was crushed. That ball was just crushed. And what Ramirez hit was crushed. What about your pitching?
Pitching's a bit of a concern. We gave up quite a few runs to the White Sox, who admittedly have a good offense. But, Barrios gave up 5 runs on Friday. And,
that's unusual.
Yeah, started Saturday.
Yeah, and what was
I forget who started Saturday, but we gave up 10 runs total to the White Sox.
Now, the White Sox do have power. Moncada, who are the players who are the big guys? Anderson?
But don't they have Abreu still?
Bobby Abreu. So.
Yeah, I mean, they are a lot more loaded now, Lurie Garcia is another guy who's played well against the Indians. Moncada is one that I remembered. Jose Abreu, they have some guys who are going to hurt you. They're going to hurt you. And the starting lineups, I want to see if I have the starting lineups here. And I don't. I thought I did, but I don't. It seems to me that I don't have the starting lineups.
Hold on, I will have White Sox and Indians postponed by rain.
Oh, you're kidding. It's not even going to happen.
Nope.
No, bonus Smoothhead.
I told you it was the fucking weather, and you said no.
Well, the other games were COVID.
Yeah.
Certainly the Marlins.
Yeah, Yankees and Phillies and Marlins are, COVID-19.
And we would have seen Edwin and Carson.
And
Encarnacion, too.
The Cubs in Cincinnati are in delay, too, so it's got to be the entire state of Ohio is getting deluged.
For dead in Ohio. Yep. So, so much for the Indians game tonight. I guess I'll be doing something else. And get used to doing something else because baseball may not be around.
You always play with dolls.
Yeah. Verlander, the report on Verlander early was that his season was done, and Verlander now they're saying 2 weeks, but that's optimistic. Uh, when you get a guy who's, and I really have questions, not only the fact that he resurrected his career with the Astros of
He's
all,
Roger Clemens, isn't it?
it is, and
He is.
it reeks of a problem here, and he comes out throwing 95 again. That doesn't happen, folks. I've never seen anybody. It's like, if Cologne came out and started throwing 95 again. Uh, who knows? Do you think that Cologne could wind up back? Could end up in the
Bartolo?
major leagues. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Get
Bartolo
Julio Blanco back.
he wanted to play. He wanted to play, and the big sexy. And but if enough guys go down with COVID, they might call him. I mean, this is what kind of season it's going to be. He hate me.
Wow.
It's going to be like that.
But I got the MLB audio because I can't bear Underwood and other posters. So it only costs like $10 or $20 or whatever. But I'm already sick of Tom Hamilton. after 3 games, I might have to start listening to the away feeds.
Too loud for you?
No, I'll tell you what the problem is. It's the commercials, because obviously the games are starting at midnight my time. So I like kind of drift off to sleep during the game when there's like 3 up, 3 down. And then suddenly you get the fucking Mullinax Ford from Vermillion or
Ed Mullinax is a friend of
and they turn up the volume on these commercials 50% louder than the actual baseball game. So I'm like drifting off to sleep, and suddenly there's like Blow from Progressive yelling at me. I go, yeah. So it's just ridiculous, the volume on the commercials compared to the actual game. Because there's no fans. I think they got a little piped in crowd noise to like warm up the sound or something. Because otherwise you'd hear people spitting and swearing in the dugouts if they didn't do that. But it's just a nightmare.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, and every picture that came in for Kansas City yesterday all had Tommy John surgery, like 2017 or 2016 or 2013, or like, oh, did he have Tommy John surgery, Andy?
The story of baseball is literally littered.
Littered.
Stories of players like Mark Fidrich, who were really. Yeah, and I don't want to say he was just a one-hit wonder, but boy, came and went way too quick. We know about Joe Charbonneau, but with pitchers, it's really an odd thing because they can lose it just that quick. Shohei Ohtani, who is the guy who both hits and pitches, he's the modern-day Babe Ruth.
Oh, I know this guy.
He didn't even get an out in the inning that he pitched.
Wow.
And he's coming off 20 months to return to the mound. He didn't record a single out. He walked 3 hitters, gave up 3 singles, charged with 5 earned runs, raising concerns about his readiness as a starting pitcher. Their manager, Joe Madden, said after the game,
yeah,
exactly. He just didn't throw the ball very well. I can't sit here and make excuses for him. I'm not going to do it. It wasn't his day. The fastball wasn't coming out. There was no deception in his pitches, and hitters will tell you that. He threw 30 pitches, half of them were balls, and left with 2 on, none out, and a 4-0 deficit. The right-hander averaged 93 miles an hour on a fastball that has been seen to reach triple digits. That's a 7-mile-an-hour top end, loss in velocity, and never had the opportunity to even throw the splitter that he was famous for in his limited time as a starting pitcher. It just wasn't going to get any better, he said, wary of the young pitcher accumulating too many pitches in one inning. Ohtani, for his sake, said there are no concerns about his health. I just have to get that feel for the game back. He had a 3.10 ERA with 61 Ks in 49 innings, but he tore the ulnar collateral ligament, which required an 18-month recovery back in 2018. He spent last year as a designated hitter, finishing his throwing, finished his throwing program in December. And then he ended up with knee surgery. You see, this is the problem. I talk about mechanics all the time, and it gets to be like a drone. It's a droning process. But when your body starts to break down in one area, it will invariably, in an athletic sense, break down in another.
Oh, 100%.
And it's a sad thing. I mean, I preach this because of what happened to me. I mean, I don't think I would have, well, I think my weight had a lot to do with it too. But you start putting a bad knee on top of things where you can't put weight on your right knee, and then, your left knee starts to go, and you have advancing arthritis and that. And then your back, you don't have a foundation under you. I'm hitting tennis balls and I'm swinging as hard as I can at balls, and then my spine goes out. It's a bad thing. Ohtani, meanwhile, had pitched in 3 intra-squad scrimmages before his 2020 debut, and he improved each time, and he did get his fastball up as high as 97 miles an hour. But he lacked command throughout, walking a combined 15 hitters in a stretch of 11 innings.
Wow.
And these reek of mechanical issues. And I've seen pitchers who, Steve Blass being one, that's Bronk in my era. Steve Blass was a pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates who one day just woke up and couldn't throw strikes anymore, literally, and it ended his career. Could not throw strikes. And it became, they said, psychological, but I don't know how much it was psychological, how much it was physical. But it's a scary thing. It's just a scary thing. So Tony was frozen too. So then,
Looks like we're the only ones here, at least the only ones talking. It's like the old days, isn't it?
Yeah, just like the old times.
It's like the old days.
Yeah, so,
Oh, but Francona really fucked up that extra inning. Now, I'm normally a big Francona fan, but, I mean, what was he thinking? Like, not trying to get at least one run when you needed one run.
Again, the history of the team has been that they don't bunt well, but we had a guy up. Hernandez comes advertised as a guy who is a good bunter. I don't understand. The first pitch, I understand he fouled it off. Why you don't let him try it on the second pitch, I got no idea. I don't know who they're trying to fool. They're outsmarting themselves. But yeah, we should have taken all 3 games. Kansas City's not a good baseball team.
I think everybody who's the away team on these extra innings games is going to go for the one run. Sacrifice the guy over on the very first batter.
Yeah, Rick may remember Steve Blass. It was an awful lot like Steve Sachs. The guy who couldn't throw from second to first base. Yeah.
Yeah, Chuck Knobloch.
And Knobloch was the other one. That's right.
Knobloch.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, as far as other things, I really think that Perez is a great defensive catcher. I mean, the play that he made with throwing basically off his hind end to throw a guy out after a pitch in the dirt and got away, on a third strike. I mean, he's throwing runners out. He's got great hands, and he's a great defensive catcher.
Yeah, the Royals catcher was awful. He let wild pitches, and that was the difference in that first game.
But it's a pleasure when you're watching he and Sal Perez, catching. Those two guys are about as good as it gets in the American League. But I don't expect to see 24 home runs from Roberto this year. I don't think that that's realistic. I think that was a great year for him last year, but I don't see that happening again this year. But he obviously knows how to manage and handle a game and call a game, and that's going to make his pitchers that much better. I would like to have seen Savali pitch today to get an idea of what we saw last year, whether there's a continuation or whether that's just kind of a one-off and people maybe looked at film on him in the off-season.
Well, I don't know how they're going to make these games up. Are they going to have twilight doubleheaders or something? And
I don't know.
How's that going to work?
I have no idea. And I want to say it's after 7 o'clock, and I think this is truth. No, I mean Gomes was not had a good arm. Gomes had a good arm, but didn't have the hands and the accuracy.
Yeah, he was sort of
The
like above
predecessor.
average, but he wasn't an elite catcher. It's just that he could actually hit better than Perez, because Perez could only hit
Right.
for like 210
Yeah,
until last year.
yeah, he's not another guy who's and he's slower than molasses. Even without an ankle injury, he's slow as hell. I wanted to thank Rox personally for doing her Britney impersonation for the program today. Thank you so much for that. And thanks for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Sorry, Tribe fans, no game tonight, but we'll have to find other things to do. And Bronk, thanks for filling in. I appreciate it. And Rick, let's try to figure out what's going on here.
We need the homily. We need a Jerry Springer homily.
Nah, I'm not in the mood for that yet. I will be when COVID takes its final toll.
That's going to be next year. That's going to be like 2021 autumn.
I'm really curious for Rick. I'm wondering if it would work better with Zoom. If there's something, I don't know why one would be different than the other, but
might be the browser he's using.
Yeah, I know. He's using Chrome just like I am. I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say, Rick, is update your Chrome, eradicate it from your system, or see if there's an available update for Chrome. And maybe you're not working on the newest architecture of Chrome. I don't know what to tell you, but I want you on the show because you're one of my baseball guys, man. Need you on here. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, there we go. Rick says the entire show and Rox never blinked. Exactly.
You need some eye drops or something.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get Christy Love, and the rest of you go on and do what you want to do. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back again on Friday again for another edition of Moohead Radio. Until next time, hasta la vista, Pastor Eds. Good night.
Bye.